Yo, 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 good people. It's your homie HerbMan, and you back upside the head with another, you guessed it, hot banger boogie. Hey, go tell somebody your homie HerbMan is on. And if this is your first time tuning in to the HerbMan show, go ahead and hit that logo right at the bottom of your screen right there and hit that notification bell so that you never ever miss what we bring to the table. All right. Now, if you are new, if you are original, all right, to the HerbMan family, we want to say thank you all across the board for allowing us to go over our 500 subscribers speed bump. And we want to continue. We want you to continue to hit like, share these videos that we're putting out so that we can get the word out that there is someone here that is willing to help, that is giving out helpful information so that you guys can take your health back into your own hands. And remember, the future of healthcare is no healthcare at all. All right. So you need to realize that and understand what we're doing when we come and bring these videos. So today we want to talk about stress. All right. Now, I know you guys have heard about this subject all too long and you think you know it all too well, but we continue to keep falling in the pit hole of stress. All right. And we need to understand exactly what stress does to the body. OK. Now, for short-term situations, stress is what it is needed. OK, so stress is good for when you are in short-term situations that you need to be stressed about in order for your body to cope and in order for your body to deal and respond or react to the situation at hand. So short-term stress is needed and is very good and is very viable. Now, the problem comes when you have a long-term stress or chronic stress, or when your levels of stress never tends to come down to normality. Then you are overriding the body. OK, when your cortisol and your adrenaline levels are just so high, and it's a never ending stressful environment that you're in. There's a lot of us that can say we're constantly in this environment. And for you, this video is for you. It's allowing you to understand that what chronic stress and long-term stress, these are the things that can really, really affect our bodies. And we need to understand when we are in these stressful situations. And we also need to understand that if we continue to stay in those things, that things will happen to our bodies. And we need to understand what those things are. OK, so we're talking about stress and the body. So just to kind of give you a little rundown of what happens, okay, your hypothalamus tells your body to get ready for a particular situation, right? It sends the signals and it says release the hormones, all right? And once this happens, your heart rate begins to speed up, okay? Your oxygen levels begin to speed up, all right? And blood rushes to the part of the body that it needs to go. This is when your fight or flight kicks in, okay? Now, again, short term, this is very good because it allows you to respond and react to certain situations and scenarios, all right? So for the short term, it is a very good survival technique. But for the long term, it can wreak havoc on the body in so many different areas that is not even funny. OK, and so we need to look at what some of those areas are so that we can ask the question. First of all, are we dealing with constant stress? Are our bodies in a constant stressful environment? And secondly, what is the toll that it's taking on our bodies from a physical manifestation? OK, and so this is why holistic practitioners and this is why holistic healing is very, very important, because you need all of these factors. You need the work environment. You need a regimen for that. You're going to need a prescription for that, so to speak. You're going to need a prescription for your emotional health, your spiritual health, your physical health. And so sometimes these things will be the driving force behind your eating habits and behind your unhealthy habits. All right. So that's why we need to not just only deal with the unhealthy eating habits or the unhealthy drug habits or whatever the habits are, but we also need to understand what is the root cause. And sometimes the root cause can be stress. All right. And that stress could lead to a family environment that needs to get dealt with. All right. Because it's driving force behind what you're doing to be unhealthy. Or we need to deal with that job situation because it's driving you, it's giving you behavior that's making you unhealthy behavior. And so that's why holistic, all right, healing is very, very necessary to really, really dig up the root and get that thing out of here so that we can really, really obtain optimal health. So stress on the body. So what does stress do? Stress can trigger and intensify tension in our head, which causes or can increase the tension on our headaches. Okay. And so you go from just something regular to a migraine. Why? Because of the high stress levels. Okay. So these are just some of the things that stress can be attributed to. It doesn't mean that it's all about stress, but if you understand your life, all right, and if you understand what you're doing on a daily basis, this could either be the root cause or it could be the driving force behind some of the behaviors that cause these particular things. And so if stress is the root cause, then we need to get to what's causing you the stress, and then we can get the stress alleviated. All right. So now stress can also be a factor in depression. Why? Because it wears you down emotionally. If you're thinking about a person that's stressing over a spouse, or stressing over some kids, or stressing over a job situation, and it's a continual thing, it can cause you to be depressed. Why? Because your relationship is not working out the way you want. Your kids are not doing the things that they're supposed to do. Your job is not working out the way that you would like for it to do. And all of these things affect what? Your social life. It affects your goals in life. It affects, your finances in life. And all these things are very conducive to your survival. So anything that starts to affect your survival can really cause stress. And it could really be very, very hard on the brain, and very hard on the mind, and very hard on the emotions. OK, stress can also increase stomach acid, which can be attributed to heartburn. OK, you didn't even know that? Well, now you do. OK, stress can also make it harder to fall asleep at night, and also harder to stay asleep. Why? Because the mind is constantly racing about a particular event or situation that you're dealing with, that you're trying to figure out, that is causing you stress and is allowing the mind to not be at ease, and therefore you cannot sleep the way that you need to sleep. Stress can also tensify the lung muscles. All right. And so it can cause rapid breathing. Now, here's a situation again where you're supposed to be breathing faster and harder, because that's what stress does. But over time, if you continue to do that, let's say you got asthma or emphysema, something that is already making it hard for you to breathe. And if you're constantly under stress, and we know that stress could tense up the lung muscles, now it's making you harder to breathe. OK, it's making it harder for you to breathe. Why? Because the lung muscles are tensing up because you're under stress. You're under stress. All right. So if you got any other lung conditions and under stress, it could be attributed to why it is hard for you to breathe. We also know that stress over the long term can damage the immune system, all right, and leave you vulnerable to illnesses and infections. OK, now this is a big thing considering what we're going through right now. And you're saying that there are certain populations that are being more susceptible to the viruses and the infections than other people. And it's because maybe these same group of people are under a little more stress factors, which leaving them with a little more weakened immune systems too, so that if something like this happens, it will damage them, or it will infect these particular people a lot more often and a lot more egregious than other classes of people who may not necessarily have the chronic stress factors as this particular group of people. So I'm not saying that that's the only reason and this, that, and the third of why people are contracting these viruses and infections. But what I'm saying is it can definitely be a component to what you're going through. OK, so we got to keep these things in mind. And that's why I wanted to make the video, so that we can really highlight what stress can do to the body. And you need to understand, so that you can ask yourself the question, is stress causing these things, or what is it? OK, what is it? OK, stress can also make it hard for a female in her reproductive situation or in her menstruation situation, because it makes the hormones fluctuate, all right, which means that it can throw off or stop periods in females. Didn't even know that, right? When a female gets stressed, she could shorten her period, she could miss a period, all right, or she could not even have a period at all, okay? And we know if you're not having a period, then you're not able to get pregnant. So you have to factor these things in too. And not only just the missing of the periods, but stress could be the cause of a lot of different other things like PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids. So we have to understand in depthness what stress can do, because again, chronic stress can lead to a whole slew of things. These are just some of the beginnings of things that can happen. Stress can also increase heart rate and high blood pressure, which will then leave you at a high risk of a heart attack. Okay. Stress can also make the liver release extra glucose in the system, which will then allow you to be susceptible to what? Type 2 diabetes. Okay. And the list goes on and on. Stress can tighten up the blood vessels, which will then cause a high blood pressure. All right. And how you look at that is if you crimp a hose, it get fat at the end, right? So that's how that's high water pressure now that you just created. So it's the same in the body. When your blood vessels tighten, it's almost like somebody crimping your blood vessels, and now you have high blood pressure. Okay, because your muscles tighten when you get stressed, and not only your muscles, but your tissues and your vessels tighten. All right. So we have to be very careful of our stressors and the environment that we are in. OK, it also can be a factor in fertility problems. Again, we're talking about missed periods, which will then be correlated right over into fertility problems. Now, what is it that it does? It interferes with the reproductive system. OK, so now you have to look at some of the factors that it may like in men. So like when you get that short-term stress, right, then your testosterone goes up, okay? But over time, if you stay in a chronic stressful situation, over time, that testosterone comes down, okay? It's not gonna stay elevated forever. It comes down, all right? And when that testosterone comes down, that is not a good thing. And that is where you're gonna have what? Low sperm count, okay? All right. It's not manufacturing enough sperm when your testosterone goes down. All right. And then now you can have impotent situation. All right. You can have low libido situation. All right. And you can even have erectile dysfunction situation. OK, so we have to be careful, but we got to understand what is that saying right there. All right. It also affects stomach aches. All right. It affects our digestive system. We didn't know that, but now you do. All right. It affects how you eat the food. It affects how the food goes through your intestines. Are you going to be diarrhea? Are you going to be constipated? It all depends on how stressful you are sometimes. OK, because remember, stress tensifies the muscles. So if your stomach muscles are tense, then the food does not get through that process like it should. And then it could be a part of that. Also, too, now that you got this stomach acid, right? It's increasing all this stomach acid and all that. That can also be a factor into why you're having stomach aches. Okay, so we gotta really understand it from a digestive system area, and you'll see as we go through that stress is affecting a lot of different body systems. Okay, again, we just spoke on erectile dysfunction. It interferes with the communication between the brain and the erection. Okay, and if there is a misnomer or if there's a disconnect in that communication, it could be very hard for a man to get an erection. Okay, it's because you're thinking about other stuff when your brain should be just trying to communicate with that body part. Okay, you got too much on the brain, you're dealing with too much, and you can't focus, and that brain wave cannot get to the other body part. And so stress can be a factor of that, man. So we definitely need to understand that. Again, it could be the cause of low libido. And just one big thing about that is that stress can keep you so tired all the time that you just don't feel like doing nothing. You just don't feel like having sex. You don't feel like even thinking about sex. You ain't even in the mood to even be thinking or going toward that way, right? Because you're so stressed out. You're so stressed out. And when those cortisol and when those adrenals come down, you ain't about nothing at this point but trying to rest and trying to relax and trying to get yourself back. And then that time, you won't have enough energy to do nothing, okay? To do nothing. And this could be a factor in your low libido, all right? And also, again, we've mentioned tense muscles, okay? It can cause tension to be related to a lot of head and back and body aches, okay? So stress can be a component of why you are feeling so achy in your body, why there's so much inflammation in your body, why there's your back hurting one day, your stomach hurting the next day, your head hurting one day, your leg hurting the next. Why? Because you're studied under chronic stress. And it's starting to affect you in a lot of different ways. Why? Because you're so tense. You got shoulder pains. You got all kind of stuff. You constantly need a massage. You constantly need a chiropractor. You constantly need to do all these different things to try to release some of that stress. And that's good. But if you're under chronic stress and you don't have the time to relieve, and you don't have the time to relax, and you don't have the time to chill and get over to the next hump, it could be daunting on a person's health. And we need to understand these things. So that's why at LeafofVitalEssential.com, and even here in Atlanta, Georgia, we have done things like learn about the massages and learn about the acupressure, learn about the importance of ligament stretching to release the tension from the backs and from the knees and from the shoulders, all right, and from the legs and from the feet and from the hands and arms and all these different things, because we understand the importance of allowing a person to relax, okay, and release the stress. All right, we create the environment with the essential oils and the meditative music and all these things, because we understand that we have to get the stress down, okay? That is the most important thing to beginning the health journey. All right, we have to go back into the body and into the mind and into the emotions and into the spirit of an individual. And we have to open up those floodgates, right? When we're talking about disease, we always talk about constipation, but it's just not constipation in the stomach. It's constipation everywhere in the body, everywhere in the mind, where you cannot have a constant flow of energy. It will produce stress on every other factor, every other area of your body. And so we look at that microcosm in a bigger picture, or that microcosm in a bigger picture, or a macrocosm, right, of life. That if things are not flowing in life the way that they should be, and if there's a constipation in an area of life that you're trying to get going, and there's no energy flow, there's no true flow going into that area of life can cause what? Stress on you. Okay, stress on your mind, stress on your spirit, stress on your emotions, stress on your physicality. And it could produce behaviors that will push you into drug abuse, that will push you into social withdrawals, okay, that will push you into doing things that you never thought you would do, or will push you into eating disorders, whether you're eating too much or you're not eating enough. And these are the components and the factors of chronic stress on your body every day and on your mind every day. And so we need to do things about it. And here at Love HerbMan, we have herbs for that. It's not just marijuana that can get you some relaxation. You have herbs out here like valerian and other herbs that you could use that could help produce a more cohesiveness in your life that can allow you to deal with stress a little bit better. When we're talking about the adaptogenic community, when you're talking about ashwagandha and rhodiola and eleuthero and all these particular ginsengs, then these things were created, all right, to help us cope with stress a little bit better, to where you don't have to go out and smoke marijuana and then maybe that will affect your jobs or your job hunt, all right? And so there's other things that God has created in the world, all right, other plants that are conducive to helping us cope with stress and relax. And so if you want more information about those herbs, leave comment down below. You can always email me at Love HerbMan at HerbMan at LeafofVitalEssential.com. Sorry, you can always hit us up You got our information. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on all the social media that you would need. And if you want to get in contact with us, we got all the avenues for you to do that. Remember one thing, we're only looking for people who are really, really searching for healing. All right. And if you're still in between, you still don't know, you still have not yet, really said yes to really healing yourself, then that's okay. We are here for you when you are ready. All right. But we only deal with people who are ready for healing. And those are the people that we definitely want to talk to. Hey, I love you guys, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Go tell somebody your homie HerbMan was on. And until next time, peace. Yes, sir. Now, I love you.